something happened last night that the football world is still trying to process. One of the most powerful men in the sport called an unannounced press conference. No warning, no agenda, no context. And what followed was something that, honestly, you would not believe if you hadn't seen it yourself. Florentino Pérez walked into that room and completely lost it. Not behind closed doors. Not in a private meeting. In front of journalists, cameras, and the entire watching world. And what came out of his mouth over the next hour? Absolutely staggering. But here's the thing, nobody saw this coming. The press conference was unannounced. Journalists were called in with zero explanation. And given the season Real Madrid have just had, most people assumed this was finally the moment. The moment where someone at that club stands up and says, "We got this wrong. We accept responsibility. Here's how we fix it." Because let's be real about what Real Madrid's season has actually looked like. They sacked Xabi Alonso mid-season, a decision that shocked everyone, and handed the job to Arbaloa. And from that moment, things didn't just get worse. They collapsed. New low after new low after new low. The kind of season that demands answers. That demands someone in charge to face the music. Some people even thought this press conference might be about Mourinho coming back. That would have at least made sense. That would have at least been something. Instead, Florentino walked in, sat down, and made one thing immediately clear. He was not there to talk about football. He said it himself. "I'm not going to talk about things that happened on the field." And from that moment, it was excuse after excuse after excuse. Referees. Corruption. Campaigns against him in the media. Negre. The same drum he's been banging for years, just louder this time. He genuinely claimed that without corrupt officiating, he would have won 7 more league titles. 7. Not 1 or 2. 7. And he said it with a straight face. When journalists pushed back, when they brought up the footage of Camavinga and Valverde physically going at each other in training, Florentino waved it away. That's not the issue. The issue is referees. Keep up. And then things took a turn that nobody in that room was prepared for. He started reading out newspaper articles out loud, laughing to himself, mocking the journalists in front of him. He called some of them ugly, on camera, into a microphone at a formal press conference. He then pivoted to listing his personal business achievements. His construction empire. Billions in revenue. Global reach. And everyone sitting in that room must have been thinking the exact same thing. What does any of this have to do with Real Madrid sitting bottom of their own expectations? This is a man who has controlled the Spanish football narrative for decades. And that part is not an exaggeration. For years, you simply did not write bad things about Real Madrid in the Spanish press. You did not criticize Florentino. The club was untouchable, protected. And it's only recently, only in the last year or two, that genuine criticism has started to break through. And clearly he cannot handle it. The moment people started pointing the finger at him, at his decisions, at his leadership, he didn't take it well. He took it to a press conference and had a very public meltdown. Compare that to how Barcelona have handled their own difficulties. Laporta, and say what you want about him, has never once hidden from a hard moment. When things have gone wrong, he stood in front of the cameras and owned it. No excuses, no deflection. Just accountability. And people forget now, but when Mbappé signed for Real Madrid, Laporta was the one who came out and said he wasn't worried. More than that, he said if anything he'd be concerned about the balance of egos at that club. He got absolutely destroyed for that comment. But ridiculed. Called jealous. And now? Every single word of it has aged like fine wine. Because Real Madrid aren't just underperforming. Reports suggest the dressing room is fractured. Rumors have swirled for months about serious tension between senior players. And rather than addressing any of it, their president is at a press conference calling journalists ugly and talking about his construction business. Barcelona's response came quickly. The legal department was activated immediately. A formal statement confirmed that every declaration made by Florentino is being examined, and that appropriate steps will follow when considered necessary. And then Rafael came out personally and said what a lot of people were thinking, that Florentino's words were pathetic, full of falsehoods, and that nobody touches this club's honor without a response. Barcelona are not taking this lying down. And they shouldn't. But just when you thought the story had reached its peak, just when you thought nothing could top what Florentino had already served up, Arbaloa opened his mouth. The man who was handed the Real Madrid job mid-season. The man who has reportedly lost the dressing room entirely. The man whose appointment many believe was the moment this season truly died. He came out in the media, not to address his own failures, not to explain the results, not to take any kind of ownership, but to back Florentino completely. He said he agrees with everything Florentino said. Everything. And then, and this is the part that genuinely takes some processing, he said that Real Madrid are the only club in world football defending the legality and honor of the game. The only club. Out of every club on the planet. Real Madrid. There's something almost fascinating about how completely disconnected from reality that statement is. A yes-man coach, installed by a president who refused accountability, now publicly doubling down on a narrative that most of the football world has already rejected. It would almost be funny if it wasn't happening at one of the biggest clubs on earth. And that's the thing that lingers after all of this. Not the specific quotes. Not the individual moments of chaos. But the bigger picture. Florentino Pérez has built something at Real Madrid that is genuinely impressive. The trophies, the signings, the global brand. Nobody is taking that away from him. But right now, in this moment, you are watching a man who has lost perspective. Who has surrounded himself with people who only agree with him. Who cannot hear criticism without reacting like it's a personal attack. And that combination, power, insulation, and zero accountability, it never ends well. For any institution, football or otherwise. Whether this press conference marks the beginning of the end of the Florentino era is something only time will answer. But one thing is already certain. Last night, in front of the entire world, the mask slipped. And what was underneath wasn't pretty.